I love it. Zoom always says, let's get this started. That's how I feel too, Zoom. How I feel too. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's mid-May 101 Masterclass. We're excited to dive into the app tonight. Hopefully you walk away learning something and jump on some water this weekend and can put those learnings to use. So we are thankfully joined. I'm not alone tonight. We're thankfully joined by Chad from the customer experience team. So thank you, Chad, for jumping on. Just as a couple reminders, your video and sound are off. So if you've got kids running around or wherever you might be in the world, no need to worry. We can't see you. We can't hear you. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody about is the kind of split between that chat and the Q&A. So you'll see those two different things along the bottom row here in Zoom. Try to use that chat exclusively to chime in where you're joining us from. Maybe find a fishing friend in your area through the chat there. And then that Q&A, try to put any of the questions you might have through the night in that Q&A section. That's going to help Chad out to be able to kind of manage all of those questions. He'll try to answer some of the one-off ones in real time, and then we'll save some of the ones that might be better answered in a group setting for the very end of class. So don't hold back on the questions tonight. We've got the man to answer all of the burning questions you might have as we're going through things. So all right. Quick agenda. Let's run through what we're going to be going through tonight. Membership options. We've got one cool new membership option tonight to talk about that's available currently on iOS. Map layers. We'll be jumping into that first off. That's kind of one of the things that I like to show people first. It's going to be how you kind of see the map. So that's one of the things we like to dive into right away. Navigating the map. We'll then kind of start to figure out, all right, how do we start moving around the map? How do we jump from state to state if we've got that nationwide plan, things like that. Map icons and the stream card. We're then going to start, once we know how to move around the map, we'll start diving into the map itself, figuring out what can we figure out, what can we learn from Pro and that single state option that we'll learn a little bit more about here in a second. Then we'll dive into stream gauges. We'll touch a little bit about that in that stream card, but then we'll dive in how those stream gauges around the map can be useful, and one of the new cool features within the My Content portion of things where you can actually save all of your favorite stream gauges so you can check them in the morning before you head out, anything like that. Next one we'll be covering is going to be offline maps and that custom map content. So outside of just those saved stream gauges, there's all kinds of other stuff that you can save within the map. And those offline maps, obviously, some of the best fishing doesn't have cell service. So we want to make sure you have those offline maps. So if you're heading out and you don't think you'll have that cell service, you know how to download them ahead of time so you can have all of that information right at your fingertips still. My location, river miles, tutorials, those are going to be kind of the right-hand side tools there up on the top right. So we'll dive into those, make sure everybody knows how to use those, get the most out of those tools, especially the river miles tool that just came over to the Android side of things. So I want to make sure that all of those Android users who might be joining us tonight can start using that, which we're really excited about. Web maps, hopefully we have a quick second to jump into those web maps, and then hopefully with this new hour and a half time that we've set aside for these 101s, we'll have some time, plenty of time, hopefully, for that Q&A. If there's, again, some of those questions that might be better answered in the group setting. So, all right, let's dive on in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can start diving into those membership options once I share the iPad here. Just as a reminder, typically share the iPad during class just because it's got a little bit bigger screen real estate. People can see what's going on better, but it will look the same on your mobile device, specifically iOS, as this one's an iPad, but just a little bit smaller, right? So, all right. Everyone can see. Chad, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the iPad screen? Boom. Appreciate it. All right. Cool. Membership options. Like I mentioned, that's kind of going to be where we start tonight. And first off, we're going to jump in here and we're going to switch things to basic. So when you jump into Trout Routes, you get hit with the screen of, do you want to start your free trial right away, or do you want to continue as a basic member? So there's kind of a couple different ways to get to that basic option, whether you kind of go through that trial period and you cancel out of that trial, or you continue right away to become a basic member. Within the basic user experience, it's going to be pretty simple, but you do still have the ability to kind of understand, all right, where is trout water around me? With the basic plan, you're going to see just blue lines across the map here. You are not going to see any of those green shadings. I am going to go ahead and turn off all of that public land shading. So this is going to be more what that basic user experience is going to look like without that public land data, right? And so it's going to show you where those trout streams are. So if you really want to just understand, all right, is that trout stream 5 minutes away that I bike past every day a trout stream, or what is it? This is going to be a tool that you can utilize really quickly and easily to kind of understand that from the basic mode, right? From there, we have introduced a new option, a new plan over on the iOS side of things that is going to be our single state option. So that's going to be kind of as it sounds, right? We've got our pro option that many of you know, which is going to be what we'll be diving into tonight. That's going to give you these multiple different map modes, all of those different tools, all of that public land data that will turn back on here, all of that good, rich information. And that single state plan is going to, again, just be all of that data, but for one single state. So this is going to be a new plan for new users. So we're excited about that. We're excited for those users who might not be traveling anglers or things like that to be able to still be able to jump in the app, and we're excited about that. But then Pro is going to be obviously, again, the one that we'll be diving into tonight, the one that you're going to be able to get the most use out of if you're traveling across state lines, or if you're looking to plan a trip in your backyard, as well as planning a trip out west, out east, to the Midwest, wherever it might be, that might be out of state, so to speak, during the summer, whenever you might be planning those trips this year. So, all right, those kind of cover the plan options. Obviously, if you have any questions, we can kind of dive into those. I'm sure Chad can answer any questions as well. So don't hesitate to answer any of the membership options, but I didn't want to dwell on those for too long, as we want to dive into Pro and show off Pro and all the good information you get here. So, all right. So again, with Pro, as I mentioned, you're going to get all of that rich information that we weren't seeing with Basic, where it went from seeing just those blue lines. Now we see all of that color across that trout water, as well as, like I mentioned, I turned that public land data back on. So we have all of those public land boundaries and things like that that we'll dive into a little bit more here as well. But the first thing that we're going to dive into, like I mentioned, is map layers. So that's going to be along the bottom bar here, all the way to the left. And this is again going to be kind of how you see your map when you're viewing it from the base map side of things. I personally like guide mode. This is the one that is also the default mode when you're kind of either jump into Pro for the first time, things like that, as this is going to be what we like to say is the most powerful map mode, as it has the trout routes specific classifications. What does that mean? We'll dive into it in a little bit, but as you can see, that's going to be kind of that color coding across the map here. Access mode, this one's going to give you all of those easement sections. As you can see, that's going to be that purple there. We'll dive into this one again in a minute. State and national parklands, you can see that'll be where some of those colors change on that public land layer, base layer there. And then we've got all of those like general public lands that are going to be kind of changed depending on what type of land they are as well. Next one over, regulations. Pretty much as it sounds, this one's going to help you kind of quickly and easily understand some of the special regulations on certain sections, things like that. So let's jump back into guide mode though, and jump into the map legend. So what are we seeing on the screen when we see all of these different colors? Like I mentioned, this guide mode is going to be those proprietary classifications for trout routes, and that's going to be the gold medal, class 1, class 2, and class 3, and that's going to be for nationwide kind of classifications. When we were building the app, we realized, all right, those state classifications, it's hard to kind of understand them when you're looking at them in a nation, kind of a full nation view. So we decided to break down all of those classifications, create one kind of base type of classification, break that down into gold medal. What do you know? How do I know what that means? Really quickly and easily. We'll show this off more. If you click into any of those stream cards, you can really quickly learn what those stream classes are. I like to cover this right here. Those gold medal, those are going to be those state designated trout streams that represent the most productive trout habitats in the country. And then from there, you're going to kind of step it down. So it's again going to be based on the trout habitat, your natural trout reproduction, the amount of public access, things like that. All right. So that's going to, again, be what those colors mean on the guide mode. I also like this guide mode. It just has a lot of pop, a lot of contrast, especially if you're using that roads base, the roads base map there, which we'll dive into as well. Access, again, if we jump back into the map legend, you're going to have those easement sections, which is going to be that purple there. So a lot of those, either Midwest anglers or sometimes Western anglers, not necessarily as much out west, but there definitely is still some. I know in the Midwest here, we rely on them a ton, where private landowners will give easement to usually specifically anglers to be able to come on their land as long as you take care of it. Hopefully, a lot of those easements will stick around for a long time and get passed down from landowner to landowner. Obviously, as long as we take care of those streams and take care of those easement sections, right? And again, like I mentioned, we're going to see some of those public land colors change. We'll see those state and national parks change to orange really quickly and easily be able to understand where some of those lands are on the map. And then we'll have some of those other public land layers get a little bit different shading. We can always click into any of those lands and see what type of land, what the management agency is by simply, I tapped on a creek there, by simply tapping on the public land layer itself. All right. Let's jump back into that regulations layer. This one, like I mentioned, is going to help you really quickly and easily. Sorry about that. Understand those quick and easy closed to fishing, gold medal, special regulations, designated trout streams, special species, things like that by state. So again, if we're kind of hovering over Colorado right now, if we start to pan, hopefully the map will catch up with us. Let's see, there we go. So there we go. We kind of hovering over Montana now. Now we can see those Montana regulations. So as you hover over those different states, you'll be able to get those different special regulations using that regulations layer. All right, jump us back to Colorado. Fantastic. We're going to jump back into that guide mode to start showing off these base maps here. Like I mentioned, that's typically going to be the base map mode that you'll be using. It's going to be the one that you'll get jumped into right away. All right. For the base maps, we've got, like I mentioned earlier, that roads base layer. This is going to be if you want to see those roads to be able to help you understand how you might be navigating to those sections of water as you kind of explore on the map. We've also got that terrain base layer as well as a satellite base layer. Again, this is going to be really dependent upon how you want to view your maps. If you're viewing the satellite map, a lot of people will then turn off the public land. We'll jump into this filtering section here in a little bit. But a lot of people will turn off that public land so they can get the full experience of that satellite layer. But just for the purpose of contrast, again, I like that guide mode on that roads base map. It tends to be a little bit easier on the eyes and things like that. So that kind of covers the map layers, those map modes, and those base layers. The last thing that kind of is in this map layer section is going to be those 2D and 3D maps. So really quickly and easily, we can go from right above, or in that base map section, I should say, right above those roads, terrain, and satellite selections, we have the ability to select 2D or 3D maps. 3D is going to jump us here, and we can, with two fingers, we're going to be able to pan ourselves to be able to get those different views up and down to take the most out of those 3D maps. So this again can be helpful if you're planning a trip and you don't know what the access is like. I know there's certain sections of water in Colorado where you get to the parking lot and you've got a certain steep climb to climb either up or down or wherever it might be. And so this can kind of help you plan that out ahead of time a little bit. Jump back into 2D there. And all right. Cool. So next thing we wanted to jump into is navigating around the map. Obviously, I've kind of been moving around the map so far. For those of you who haven't been playing around or maybe aren't familiar with mapping applications, things like that, I'm sure most of you are considering Google Maps or Apple Maps is kind of synonymous in everyone's life these days. But to kind of move around the app and the map in the most basic sense, pinch and pull and kind of scroll around. Pretty similar to any of those other applications that you might have used. But where it gets a little bit more unique is when you want to potentially jump to a different state or jump from one river to another in a certain state and things like that, or specifically when you're searching state by state. And so that's when the top left, you can see we've got Colorado selected up here. That top left state selector is going to be really important. So if we click on that state, we're going to pull up this scroll here that's going to allow us to select any of the apps. We've got the lower 48 covered here, even if there's not trout water in the in that state there. We do have it covered. But we can select any of those states, and then if you see they're right to the right of the state name there, there's a little box with the outline. If we go ahead and tap that box, that's going to jump us to that state that we've just selected. So like I mentioned, this is a really quick and easy way to get yourself from state to state rather than scrolling across the entire country. Say you're in Pennsylvania and you want to go search for a trip out in California or Oregon, like I just pulled up, whatever it might be. This is one really nice, easy way to kind of jump from state to state. The other thing that this is going to be really useful and probably most powerful for is informing the search tool. So obviously, one example is going to be Bear Creek, right? There's Bear Creeks all over the country. So say we've got Oregon selected right now, but we're searching for Bear Creek in a different state. If we start to search Bear Creek, hopefully search wants to populate for me. Let's see. Might have to kill the app here. There we go. So as you can see, look, there's multiple Bear Creeks even just in Oregon, right? Just a couple search results there for Bear Creek. Hey, Chad in Oregon? Just a few. So obviously, if we're searching for Bear Creek in any other state, it's going to take a little bit to get down to where those might be. So if we know what state we're searching for that Bear Creek in, we can inform the search by selecting that state. And we don't necessarily even have to jump there at this point. We can simply select that state and start searching there, and that will start informing that search. Again here. So you can see now if we start searching, it's going to first populate those search results in Montana. So this is again a really easy way if you're starting to look, if you look for a creek and you're like, oh my gosh, there is just hundreds of them here. What do I do? Let's jump there. You can always select the one you want by using the state search that you want. All right, those are kind of the quick, easy ways to jump around the map and move yourself around. Next thing that we wanted to jump into is going to be those map icons and the stream card. So I mentioned before when you wanted to see what those different class ratings were for the specific stream colors, you kind of got to that within the stream card. So for those of you who are familiar and have poked around, this is going to be one of the ways to really start to harness all of that information. Outside of all of those icons and things that you get from the main icon in the app, from that public access icon to the trailheads, to your campgrounds, to those fly shops. We've got a partner fly shop right there. We've got all of that good information. If we click in, oh, good old Gallup slide in. How about that? All of that information is going to be right there on that kind of map base mode there. When you're taking a look, you can search around, you can click into any of these access points and learn more, things like that, right? But say you want to learn more about the specific river. Well, all you have to do is click on any of those waterways, and that's going to pull up what we call our stream card. Just as a reminder, the stream card is only going to be available on iOS and web right now. We are working hard. We've hired that full-time Android developer who has brought that River Miles tool that we'll cover here in a little bit over to Android and is working hard to bring Stream Card over to Android next, which is going to be huge. So hopefully you can get a little bit of information about it tonight and put it to use here very soon. But within the stream card, that's going to give you, again, all the information you might want to know about a river specifically, whether it be the river name, the section of the river, if that's river is broken into multiple sections, right? This is the Upper Madison, and then where it's located, county and state, as well as distance, and that kind of median elevation as well. Share, obviously, if you want to go ahead and share that river with a friend, they can pull that up within their own Trout Routes app. Bookmark, this is going to be where you save streams. We'll dive into those saved streams here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and bookmark that one so that we can find it here in a little bit when we jump into those, into that My Content section, as well as offline. This is going to be one of those ways that you can save a section of the map offline that we'll dive into a little bit later in that My Content section as well. If we go ahead and slide that card up here a little bit, we can start to see a little bit more information. Just I'm going to back myself up a little bit. We did cover this, but if you want to learn more about those classifications, what does gold medal mean? What does class 1 mean? You can always just tap on that card and that's going to pull up, again, that explanation of those different classifications for you. All right. Like I mentioned here, below all of those kind of options to share, save, or save for offline, we have the geography tab, our local information tab, our fly shop tab, our stream flows tab, access laws, and then my content. What do those tabs do? What do they all mean for me? This is going to be where all that information lives that you might want to know about a stream, or where you can save all of the information that you want to save to your specific map. Again, anything that you do, anything that you save, we'll go over this again when we jump into my content. Any of that is going to be custom to your profile. We're not pulling any user data, any crowdsourced information. That's going to be your custom kind of fishing logbook, right? So first off, that geography one, it's going to help give you some quick hitters. How long is this river? What's the peak elevation of this river? How much does that elevation change throughout the 147.2 miles of that river stretch? And then what's the slope that river then kind of changes that elevation at, right? Below there, we have one of my favorite parts. This is actually one of the things that I think is super cool, especially on some of those small streams where you can get really granular with some of the elevation changes and things like that. Or when you're planning out, again, a hike or whatever it might be on a certain section, you can understand how much am I going to be hiking on this section, or how steep is that hike going to be, so to speak. And that's going to be this elevation chart. One of the cool things is if you go ahead and grab and scrub along that chart, whether you're on this elevation or slope, you'll be able to see right exactly where on the river that reading is at. I think it's a super cool tool. You can obviously see dams at certain sections here, things like that, where the reservoirs are. All of that cool information. Again, sometimes it's more useful on some of those smaller streams, whatever it might be. But definitely one of my favorite parts about the stream card itself. Next one is going to be local information. This is going to help give you some general season guidance. It's also going to give you some of those river characteristics. You can see all three of these are kind of highlighted, so to speak. If they were not highlighted, didn't have that dark kind of overlay over them, they would not be designated as popular, a tailwater, or an easement. So this is going to be kind of, again, a quick hitter to understand, all right, is this a popular river? Is it a tailwater, and does it have at least a section of easement on it? Next one is going to be those special regulations and classifications. This is going to be, again, if you're not on that regulations mode, this is going to be where you might be able to find some of that information that you might want, any of that. You can also then obviously check your regulations in your regulations book or on your state's website, things like that. Definitely good to double check and make sure you're good to go before you hit the water. Next one, as I mentioned, we've got those fly shops. We've got partner fly shops that we work with that we've got a little bit richer information on within the app, but we do have as many, if not all of the fly shops around the country, and we're adding more every single day. So with that fly shops tab, this is going to be able to pull in those fly shops close to this river. So whether you're, again, planning a trip to the river and want to stop at a fly shop beforehand to grab some flies and local intel or whatever it might be, or you're on the river and you run out of leader or you run out of float and whatever it might be, those things that you always end up running out of on a day on the water, right? You can find the closest fly shop to you, get those directions with one click, and hopefully not waste too much time out on the water. Next one over is going to be, again, this is going to be one of the coolest features within the app. We'll talk about it quite a lot. We'll talk about different ways to use it, and that is going to be the river gauges. So this has become a huge tool for anglers all over the country. Whether you're trying to battle runoff right now in the West, or you're just trying to check temps on certain streams in the East, whatever it might be. You can use these river gauges in all different ways, and I'm sure most anglers are already using them. There just might be instead using the USGS website or the Colorado Water Service. I always forget the name of that organization's website. But basically websites that look like they were built in the 90s, right? And so instead, we've harnessed all of that information, pulled it all into the app, and given you access to that right here on all of your favorite waterways. And one of the cool new things that you can do is you can save any of your favorite river gauges. So again, if you've got certain sections of a river or you've got certain rivers that you want to be able to manage and kind of take a look at really quickly and easily, that's going to be now available within the My Content section of the app with that redesign that we did here over for the iOS side of things. That will be extrapolating out to the other platforms as well here, hopefully soon. Again, this stream flows tab within the stream card itself is going to give you a really quick, easy view of all of the stream gauges across the entire river. So we'll show you here shortly how to jump into specific gauges if you know right where the gauge you want to check is. But this is really nice to be able to maybe decide what section of a river you're going to hit during a day based on what flows in that upper versus the lower section. Things like that obviously can change depending on how big a river is. They can be in two very different areas, or simply whatever might be in between can change things up, obviously. So that Streamflows tab is a really great way to harness a lot of the information that you get from those stream gauges. Next one, access laws. This is going to be really useful for not only if you want to brush up on the access laws in your own state, but again, if you're planning a trip out of state. For those of you who don't know, stream bed access laws are not the same from state to state. They definitely differ, and it's definitely important to make sure that you know what those stream bed access laws are before that you hit the water, especially if you're in a new state. So this is going to be the place to kind of start understanding what those walk and wade laws are, what those floating laws are. Can I touch the stream bottom? Can I move into a quote unquote private section of water as long as my feet stay wet, as long as I stay below the high water mark, things like that. This is going to be a great tool to be able to help you start learning, as well as giving you more information and linking straight to that to where that you can, again, double check all of the information available to you to make sure that you are staying safe and responsible out on the water. All right, last one is going to be my content. This is going to be a section where you can save specific notes and photos to a river. Rather, we'll go into it in a little bit about the way that you can save notes and photos for specific markers on a river that you may add. But this is one way to add notes or photos to a specific river. So if you want to leave a note for yourself so that you make sure that you know that you fished these two sections but haven't fished this section of that river yet. Or if you want to just add some general photos of that river so that you have them to show your buddies when when they're panning around your app or whatever it might be. This is going to be where you can save that stuff directly to the river itself. Awesome. And so that's going to be kind of running through the stream card there. Again, one of the ways that you get the most information. I always tell people sometimes they get into the app, right? And they're like a little bit overwhelmed. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of icons, there's a lot of things, and they go, what do I do? What am I supposed to do here? And I say, all right, just scrolling on a river, one that looks like it's got some good bends or looks good to you, looks fishy, right? And just tap on it and just start to learn more about it, figure out how you might attack it, things like that. And how you might start to do that then dives into the next thing I want to talk about, which is going to be those that public land boundaries and really kind of how you start to explore that on the river itself, as well as using again those that public land layer that we talked a little bit about here. So, as we mentioned, we can see here there's a lot of water. But we know not all water, not all sections of water are open to public use. Thankfully, we do have a lot of public water. I'm sure you've all heard about it. We're trying to fight as hard as we can. Make sure you're reaching out to your local representatives as much as you can, where you can in your own states, to make sure that we can protect all of those public lands and the public water that we love and try to take care of. But how do I explore that public water? Well, again, we've got all of that public land information that we can click into, understand that. But what if I got rid of that layer? Let's go ahead and get rid of that layer again. Oh, not that one. That one. What if I got rid of all of that information? Well, that's going to leave you with these sections of water that have that kind of gray highlighting to them, right? What does that mean? That's going to designate sections of water that flow through public land and have at least one side of the river with public land information. This is again why it's pretty important to turn that public land layer on. But if we didn't have that, we would still have the ability to understand where those sections of water that flow through public land are. So as you can see, any of those sections where it loses that gray bounding is going to be flowing into private sections of land. So obviously we know, again, from state to state, you're not going to be able to potentially move into some of those sections, even if you were to keep your feet wet. But there are certain areas where as long as you start in some of those public sections, you can then keep your feet wet and move into some of those non-highlighted sections. But again, make sure you check those regulations and those laws within those states that you're exploring at that time. Ooh, the wildfires here are getting me. They chugging down water tonight. My goodness. All right. Cool. Within the icons, I wanted to jump in a little bit more and talk about how we can start to, again, customize our map. So this is going to show us again how many of those things that we can start to see, those fishing access icons, parking spots, campgrounds, trailheads, boat ramps, dams, habitat projects, trout stocking, all of those. And there's different ways that we can either view our maps. Again, all of that information might not be for everyone. Maybe you're not going to be camping on a certain trip, or you're not looking to start at a trailhead. You want to make sure you're starting at a general access point because that you're looking to put in a boat, and then maybe you can even just narrow it down to just having those boat ramps on the map so that you can see just the sections where you might be able to put your boat in, things like that. Those will be able to start to be toggled on and off, just like the public lands, by simply tapping on the X there. As we get down here, you can see with the dams, the habitat project, the trout stocking, the stream gauges, they start to get a little bit more granular with how you want them shown, whether just outside of just turning them on or off, we can have them on stream only, hide, or show. So what that's going to mean is when you select the stream, those will show. We can have them show, which means that they will always show, or we can have them as hide, which means that they will just simply be hidden if you don't want them shown again. Trout lakes, this is going to be one that is toggled off simply because that Trout House is focused on moving trout water. But we do have, if you toggle that on, we do have trout lakes, and I zoom in here a little bit better. We do have some stocking information within those trout lakes as well. So some people get utilization out of this when they're doing some blue lining during the summer and hitting alpine lakes, or maybe some ice fishing utilization, things like that. So this is just a feature that's a little bit hidden within the app. As I mentioned, it is going to be off by default, but definitely one that I would recommend people take advantage of, as it is pretty powerful, and as is definitely one of those things that I tend to get a little bit more use out of during the summer, and I know a lot of users do as well. So don't forget about that one this summer. Fly shops, that one's going to be a pretty easy one that you can toggle on or off. But like I mentioned, stream gauges, this one's going to be one of those ones where if you are an older user of trout routes, or maybe you're a newer user and you're jumping into the app and you're saying, I'm not seeing the stream gauge that I know is on my local river, or maybe you're using it to check stream gauges for your favorite bass spot or whatever it might be. I can't, I don't have any idea who would potentially do that. I've never done that myself at all, to check the stream gauges at my favorite bass spot. Never. But if you're not seeing your favorite gauge, this is going to be where you'll be able to kind of dissect why. The standard option is going to be on trout water only. So this is going to be this obviously kind of what it says, right? This is going to be when those stream gauges are on sections of trout water, that's when they'll be shown. Hide all, that's again going to be if we were to just tap the X off, as most of these have. And then show all, that's going to be show all, obviously. So if you want to see all of the gauges, whether it's on warm water or trout streams, again, it can create a little bit more busyness, a little bit more noise within the map itself. So it's really kind of, again, how you want to tailor your view of the app and start to dive into it that way. Tributary boundaries, this one's going to be specifically for, or at least most utilized around the Great Lakes right now. That is where we have the best, and it's still very minor migratory coverage at this point. We do have some tributary boundaries on the North Shore of Minnesota, and things like that of Lake Superior. So it's definitely something to start to dive into. We might start to explore that more as we continue to grow the app here. Nothing too exciting to dive into further on that one, no. County state overlay, it's going to be exactly what it says. If you want to be able to see those county and state overlays, you can see right there on the map, we see those kind of pop up. Persistent settings, this is going to be one that I always have on. Anytime that I change anything on the map, I want to be able to close my app and have those changes be there still when I open the app. Persistent settings is going to be the one that you want to make sure that you turn on to have that happen. If you don't turn that on, it's going to reset all of those filter and map settings to that kind of, again, standard where trout lakes will be off and things like that. So if you want to turn trout lakes on and make sure that those trout lakes are still shown every time that you close and open the app, that's going to be where you do that with that persistent settings filter. Lock filter is enabled, and just as a reminder, you can always tap that I if you ever need a reminder on what any of those filtered options or any of those filter ideas mean. So this is again going to be similar to that persistent settings, but this is going to be within those map modes. When you have those different map modes selected, your settings will be persistent. So a little bit of a repetitive option here in the filters, but it is, again, if you want your persistent settings across all map modes, you'll have those lock filters enabled. And if you have that deselected, when you switch to those different map modes, it will go back to those the standard settings that you've selected for those different map modes. Snap to stream. So, and again, is going to be kind of obvious. If you have that on, when you tap on a stream, even if you are out at a kind of, if we pinch out here, if you're out at a wide zoom, if you tap on any stream, it's going to take you to zoom in pretty hard. Sometimes it can be a little bit jarring. Sometimes it's not as easy, especially if you tap on a stream as you're scrolling across the map. You can kind of get thrown off on where you're at on the map. So again, personal preference on how you want to utilize the app. I do believe this one is off by default. Zoom fade enabled. This one is going to be, depending upon what zoom you have, is going to show certain icons at a smart level. I tend to have this one on just because it will help you see the map a little bit cleaner at those different zoom levels. Google Maps default. This one is one that we get a ton of messages, I know, on social about, on our hello email. I'm sure the customer experience team gets them as well. Is I accidentally clicked the wrong standard map application when I was going to get directions, because again, you can get directions to any of the places right here within any of those. If you tap on a river, if you tap on any of those icons, anything, you can get directions. I selected to get directions to Google Maps and I wanted to be pushed to Apple Maps, or I selected Apple Maps and wanted them to go to Google Maps. That is going to be down here at the very bottom of that filters and map settings section. And that's going to be where you'll be able to select or deselect to have that Google Maps as your default. Obviously, if that's selected, it'll jump you to Google Maps to take you there. And if it is deselected, it will take you to Apple Maps on your iOS device. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Doesn't look like we've got any questions to answer immediately. Couple to save to the end. So we will keep on keeping on. And the next thing I wanted to dive into is going to be those tools along the right-hand side. So like I mentioned, we've got the My Location tool. We've got the River Miles tool, which is now available on the Android side of things, as well as that tutorials tool, which is not available on Android yet. So what do those do? How do I use them? How can I use them? My Location is going to be a great one when it comes to any of that ability to jump to where you are on the map. So if you're out in the water and you want to jump directly to where you are, or if you're looking to kind of understand wherever might be in relation to where you're currently at, there's multiple different ways to use it, obviously. And one of the things I want to remind everybody of is that you don't have to have cell service. You just need to have that satellite to be able to access that. So if you are in an area with no service, which I just realized I totally jumped over the offline maps and custom map contents. We're going to move back to that one here shortly. But if you are using those offline maps, you still will be able to jump yourself to where you are using that My Location button within the app to be able to save a marker right where you are. If you catch a big brown out on the water or whatever it might be, that's a nice utilization of it as well. So next one down is going to be that River Miles tool, which is going to be pretty similar as it sounds, right? And that's going to be if we tap on one section of a river, we can then tap on another, and that's going to give us the distance between those sections. This can be used in a couple different ways, whether you want to use it for your walk and wade trips or you want to use it for your float trips to obviously see how long a section of a float might be, or to just kind of understand how much water you might be able to cover on foot. Really quick and easy, really quick, easy access there. Uh, Hopefully pretty obvious with the ruler icon and means kind of measuring a river distance. So next one down is going to be the tutorial button. Outside of class, we know that there's a lot to dive into within the app. We try to dive into as much and give people kind of that 101 overview. But if you walk away from tonight and you don't want to listen to me do this whole spiel again on YouTube tomorrow, you can start to dive into some of these in-app tutorials. So we've got a few different options here. And if we click into any of them, we'll start to get those custom walkthroughs right within the app to where that we can start to learn more about what certain things do or to how to learn how to utilize certain features, things like that. Awesome. All right, backing up because I completely jumped over all the goodness of offline maps and this brand new redesign of the custom map content for iOS that I'm super excited to show off. So first thing is we're gonna jump into how to create the content, and then we will navigate to where to find all of that content. So if we zoom out, you can see there's a couple of these teardrop icons around the map as I've been scrolling around. Those are going to be those custom markers that we're able to drop. So waypoints, custom markers, however you want to refer to them. This is going to be anytime you want to save a custom spot to add notes, add photos, things like that. This is going to be how you do it. You're going to jump into along that bottom bar where we've jumped into the legend, into those filters tonight, as well as into the map layers. We've got those two other options that we'll jump into here over the next couple minutes. The first one being obviously there, create. We click create, we can go to new marker, as this is one of my favorite features. Say we go to a public section. Say we caught a big, nice fish there. We can drop a marker right on that section using that kind of little aim arrow, aim icon, however you want to refer to it as. And we can then select the type of icon that we want to use. We've got a few different selections here. We can name that marker whatever we want to name it, and we can select a color for the icon. Like I mentioned, outside of just being able to add photos and notes to a river specifically, we can always add those photos and notes to a custom icon itself, or to, as we'll jump into, a line or a shape as well. If we go ahead and click that add, we can then add any of those notes, and we can add any of those photos as well. Make sure you hit save on the bottom there, and that'll go ahead and save that icon, and we'll be able to jump back into it. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll go May Masterclass. How about that? That one should be easy enough to find in a little bit when we go to look for it. The next thing you can see within the create here before that I jump back to offline maps is going to be that line. This is just going to be another ability to, say you find a little ditch that during runoff gets a ton of water or whatever it might be, and you might want to add certain lines or just even a certain boundary to a piece of public land that you might want to remember, or whatever it is. You can always do that, and this is going to be pretty similar to where that you start that boundary. And this has been happening when I've been sharing my screen. You should, when you're doing this at home, see that line populating as you are moving and adding those. And I'm sure once we click create, we'll be able to select those. Again, we'll name this May Masterclass. Pretend this line is populating. If you're following along, hopefully it's populating right on your screen, and you can see it as you change the color, as you change the width, as you change the type, and as you add notes. We'll go save. Of course, now it populates on my screen there with all of those selections that we had. Normally, like I mentioned, when you are using that line tool, it will populate from line to line, from dot to dot as you're creating that line. Similarly to lines, we can add shapes. Shapes is going to do a similar thing for me today, apparently. Where we'll go create, May Masterclass again. We can select a color. We can select a fill opacity. Again, hopefully you are seeing this live on your screen if you're doing it in real time. Seems like Zoom's screen sharing doesn't cooperate with creating shapes and creating lines in real time. That outline opacity, again, we can change that width and the line type, add photos, add notes to this specific shape, and go ahead and save. That shape got a little bit wonky, but hopefully you understand where I was going with that one. I like to use shapes if I'm, I've used it in a couple different ways. If I want to remember a specific section of a piece of trout water, or again, if you're using it for if you're using the app for more than just trout, I've also kind of created areas where I know, all right, there's good bass water here, there's good pike water here, things like that. So you can start to, again, customize the map, make it your own. Make sure that you know that none of this information is ever going to be shared anywhere. So any of that information, any of those things that you save, anything that you add to the map is going to be right there for you and your custom profile. Awesome. Next one that I want to dive into here is going to be that offline maps. So as we mentioned, I'm going to jump into the stream card because we talked a little bit about, okay, we can save maps offline directly within the stream card. It's going to be the first way that you can do it. That is going to, I will say, especially if the river's long, be a little bit difficult and take up a ton of space. It is, however, sometimes a little bit more doable if we have a small piece of water we can go ahead and download that region, and that will be able to have just that specific waterway. If we know, however, just the zone, or just especially if we're talking a large piece of water, just the section of water that we want to save for offline maps, we can go again to that create, and this is going to be the far left-hand side here, and we will hover over that section that we want to save for offline maps. Press download. We can name it whatever we want. Otherwise, it will have a name to it itself. Go ahead and go May Masterclass again. And we'll be able to find that one later. One thing I do want to call out about the offline maps that sometimes catches people up, I know I've personally even got caught up on this, is that I'm going to go ahead and cancel that download, and we'll find some other offline maps within in that section later. But one of the things I want to call out about offline maps, as I was saying, is anytime you download a map, you want to make sure that you have the base map selected that you want to utilize when you're out on the water. When you are downloading those maps to your phone, you are downloading them by base map specifically. So if you want that roads base map to be able to navigate, help yourself navigate to the river, but you also want to have that satellite base map so you really can get granular once you hit your certain access points or things like that. You want to make sure that you have the roads selected. You go ahead, you find your section, download, save it, maybe name it roads. And then you go map layers without even moving the app, go satellite, you go create, download, and you can maybe name this one again satellite. That's typically how I'll jump into it. But again, just make sure before that you head out on the water, if you think you might not be in an area with cell service, that you download those maps and you download all of the base maps that you want to be able to have access to while you're offline. Cool. Like I mentioned, that one sometimes catches people up. All right. So I've been creating all of this content. I've got all of this rich content. How do I remember what I saved, remember my spots? How do I quickly access them without having to remember, like, oh, remember kind of where that was, but I don't exactly remember where I dropped that marker. Obviously, if you zoom out, you can see the markers, but if you start creating a ton, sometimes you want to have a better way of finding them or just understanding the content that you have created. That's going to be there where that My Content tab that we haven't jumped into yet is going to start to come into play. So within My Content, we've got a full redesign here over on the iOS side. Again, we're working to bring it to the other platforms here as quickly as we can. But this is going to help you start to dive into these categories and really start to harness all of that My Content information in a much better and more useful way. We hopefully like to have all users think. So first category we have here is going to be all content. If I just want to see all of the content I have, I can start to expand that from there and start to explore it from there. But we also can explore those different pieces of content right within the app. So first one is going to be those offline maps. So as you can see, we've got a couple different maps saved, and we've got those tiles. 45 out of 750 tiles. I'm sure it looks like we've got a live question that came in that people are asking potentially about the drop in the tile number that we had. If you're an older user, or just what do those tiles mean? So those tiles are going to be referring to the amount of space that you are downloading on the base map itself, and that's just going to be kind of the max capacity that the current current setup can hold. Again, this is something we're working hard on. Hopefully, we'll be able to expand it soon. I know a lot of people have gotten frustrated about why can't I save as many offline maps as I want. And I think we've all potentially felt that even on the team. So it's something that we definitely want to improve here down the road. But for the meantime, one of the things that I like to do is I'll save my maps for the day, and when I get home, I'll just go ahead and delete those maps. And if I need them at a certain time, I'll go ahead and resave them again. It also just makes it a little bit easier as well. You're not, you don't have as much space saved on your phone and things like that. So it frees up a little bit of space that way too. So that's just a good practice to get into is deleting those offline maps that you don't need. So we can either do that by selecting the three little dots there and deleting that. You can also view that selection of map. But we can also delete all right there on the bottom. We can also go ahead and create a new region within the My Content section if you are already in that My Content section and don't want to navigate to the Create button. Streams. This is going to be one of the ones where you can start to see gold, class 2, class 1, really quickly and easily amongst all of your favorite saved streams across the entire country. You can also start to sort those and filter those in different ways so that you can have, all right, I just want all of the gold medal streams that I have saved, things like that. So that's going to be one of those ways to start being able to get the most out of. I know I used to save a ton of streams and I used to have a good ability to be able to peel through them, but this just harnesses even more information right on the screen so that you don't have to click into each river to be able to understand what class it is, things like that. So we're excited about that one. But I think the one that we're most excited about is the one that is right below that. As I mentioned, this is a brand new thing with this new redesign to My Content is the ability to save stream gauges. I know that I've got a bunch of different stream gauges that I like to check it depending on where I'm traveling around the country. And so this is going to be huge when it comes to, all right, I'm going to select a bunch of different sections on my favorite river. I'm going to select multiple different rivers in an area that I'm going to, and I'm going to be able to check them the morning before I go out. So I'm going to go to bed having an idea in my head of, all right, I think this is the piece of water we're going to hit. But in the morning, you can jump on trout routes, check those stream gauges, confirm that the flows are where you at or where you want, confirm the temps are where you need them to be, all those good kind of things. And again, harnessed right here, all of your favorite stream gauges within just a couple clicks right in that save stream gauges section. River gauges, stream gauges, however you want to refer to them, right? Next one down, keep it on, is going to be markers. Again, this is one where as you start adding a bunch of markers, you might want to start to filter them or sort them in different ways. So we've got the ability as well within the markers. You can sort, you can filter if you want just your, if you save all of your whatever the places where you catch fish on an olive streamer. That's all of your green icons or whatever it might be, right? You can have all of those green icons then show up, but we also can search. Let's go ahead and turn that filter off. We can also search and find that May Masterclass one that we just found. So this is great if you know what that name of the icon that you saved is. One right below that is going to be lines. Again, you can click into those lines, May Masterclass. It'll jump you right to that line that you've created. You can always go ahead and edit that at any time as well. Let's change it to orange. I like blue. I don't like that dot. There we go. That looks better. I like it. And then next one is going to be shapes. Again, similar to lines. If we click onto that shape, it's going to jump us to that shape. We can always edit it, change that opacity. There we go. And save it. And it's saved just as we wanted. So that's going to kind of cover, again, those ways that you can start to jump into the My Content, the custom content, the ways to really start making your map your own. All right, so that kind of covers a lot of the 101 basics that we wanted to cover tonight. Don't hold back on those questions. We've got just a couple other things here to jump into. So if there is any specific things that you want to dive into when it comes to the app itself, we can certainly circle back to that here in a little bit. As I'm pulling up the web maps here, I did want to just mention that we do have Apple CarPlay. So if you are an iOS user and your car has CarPlay enabled, we've got that support for you. So if you are, so I'm pulling up the maps here, trying to trying to multitask. Um, if you are in that CarPlay enabled vehicle, go ahead and just plug your phone in, or if you're lucky enough to have that wireless CarPlay, whatever, all that good stuff, you can access it that way, and that was the wrong one that I wanted, and that will populate a simplified version of trout routes right there on your car screen, which I know is pretty cool. It can be a little bit distracting, so maybe not always using it if you're with someone, things like, or unless you're with someone, things like that. But definitely a cool tool to be able to, if you're driving around on a nice warm day and you're like, was that a trout stream that I just drove over? Instead of having to open your phone, you can have it just plugged right in and pulled up on your dashboard and confirm, yep, that was a trout stream. Let's go ahead and stop. So. All right. Chad, can I get a thumbs up that you can see the web map? Beautiful. Amazing. Fantastic. So, web maps. This is one that not everyone necessarily knows that they have access to, or maybe don't know, how do I harness this best? I typically like to use the web map on my laptop or on my desktop, whatever it might be, when I'm planning out a trip. Obviously, the iPad can be nice if you're sitting at home on the couch or whatever it is, but that bigger screen real estate is kind of what I'm jamming on with that, right? Is the iPad, the desktop, the laptop, whatever it might be, is going to offer you that bigger screen real estate, which is really going to help you start to explore around more. Especially if you've got, a smaller phone or whatever it might be. I know I've got the big old Max here, so I can't complain too much about screen real estate on my phone, but sometimes it's nice just to be able to have more screen real estate and be able to just explore more water at one time. So that's kind of the first reason that I start to utilize the web maps. The nice thing about web maps is that anything that you do on the app or anything that you do on the web map is going to be viewable and is going to be right there for you on either device that you're viewing it on. Um, so as you can see, we've got all of those markers saved here around the map, and those are going to be all of those same markers that we're finding over on any of the other devices that we're using the same account on. There's sometimes where people get caught up because they create multiple different accounts, and whether it's a slight email change or whatever it is, and people are like, I can't see my markers that I see on my phone on my web map. And sometimes there's certain things, so just make sure that you confirm. One way you do that is going to be within the My Profile section here. Confirm that that email address is the same if you are having issues with certain markers or whatever it might be not showing up across your devices. So, but Web Maps is going to operate pretty similarly. Like I mentioned, within the Web Maps here, we do have that stream card that's going to offer you all of that similar and same information as we have over on the good old mobile devices here. So as you can see, we've got the stream gauges, again, accessible really quickly and easily. But we've also got all of those map layers, the My Content, the filters, the legend, all of that is going to be housed, instead of on the bottom, is going to be housed on the far left here. So those are kind of the quick, easy hitters. Again, we're going to have the state select here. Where we've got the ability to inform the search as well as jump to a certain state, whatever it might be. Let's jump to a state with a little bit more trail water. How about Pennsylvania? There we go. There we go. That makes the map look a little bit more better and colorful, huh? As well as zooming in and zooming out instead of scrolling in with the mouse or whatever, or zooming in with your tracker pad on a laptop, things like that. You can choose to zoom in and out with along that bottom right bar there. And then we've got 3D maps to toggle on and off again on the bottom right there. You can toggle that on and off. And then up on the top right, we've got all of those same tools within River Miles. This one's going to be actually, let's click out of here quick. And then this is going to be where we'll find the ability to create those lines, those shapes, and drop those markers really quickly. Awesome. So that is going to be a really kind of quick rundown for the web map side of things. So I am going to stop sharing. And check on our questions here. Sweet. How do you get to the web map? First one. That one's real quick and easy. Easy way, there's a couple different ways. First way is either to navigate to the troutroutes.com website, and you can, up in the top right-hand side, there is the login button, so you can get to it that way. Or if you want to get directly to it, it is going to be, just want to make sure I don't misspeak on, it is going to be maps.troutroutes.com/login. And so that will take you to the map. So maps.troutroutes.com should take you right there. But that'll be where you'll be able to access those web maps. Sometimes people get caught up and they're like, I tried downloading it in the App Store on my Mac or whatever it might be, and I can't access it. And that's not going to be the best way to do it. It's not going to be how you want to do it. It's not going to be accessible that way. So that maps.troutroutes.com, that's going to be where you'll be able to harness it on any of those devices that might not be the mobile device. Quick and easy one. Chad, what else we got? We're all good? Been cranking through them. I love it. Fantastic. Well, look at that. We booked an hour and a half to try to save some time for Q&A, and with Chad here, he just mastered it. He just cranks through them all. We don't have to answer any other questions. My goodness. All right. Well, we can hang out for a minute here if anyone else has got any of those quick questions that we might not be able to answer. Not seeing the content transferring to the app web maps. Let's see. So Kevin, again, just try to check if you're not seeing that. Make sure that you're seeing those profiles are the same. And if not, I'm sure Chad can help you out on that one. So looks like we do have a couple questions that Chad bumped to the end here. What does the map filter fishing easements only actually do? Great question. Let me go ahead and share my iPad again, and we'll jump into that filter option. So filters, it's going to be where we find that, and that is going to be in the special filters here. So most popular only, fishing easements only, and tailwaters only. Tailwaters only is going to be one that if you are out west, I'm sure you will either are using or you hopefully will be using it here soon. We're about to send out an awesome campaign around kind of runoff fishing and how to get the most out of the app during runoff. So you should be hopefully starting to get some use out of that one. That is simply going to show only sections of water that are tailwaters. Obviously, again, great to be able to find some hopefully clearer water during runoff and things like that. But that fishing easements only, that is going to be similarly to where that tailwaters only shows pieces of water that are tailwaters. That fishing easements only is only going to show sections of water that have sections of easements. If we want to know what those sections of easements are, we can switch over to that access layer and potentially find out where those easement sections are. So that's going to be kind of the lowdown of that filter. Guide mode there. And next one. Does River Miles work when offline on a downloaded river? It will not. So River Miles is one of those features that does require internet cellular access, not just that satellite access to use, but does require that cellular service. All right. Perfect. So we got one more coming in. Offline maps, how to start, how to create an offline map, Chad? Yeah. All right, let's jump back into that one real quick. Sweet. So again, we can do that a couple different ways. One way is if we have a small, I typically like to use this on a smaller piece of water. We can select the piece of water and select that offline, go to download, and that'll save that entire piece of water for offline use. Or we can go create offline maps that will then populate this kind of box, so to speak, that will allow us to select the section of offline maps that we want to use. And then we have the ability to create in as well. And to be able to use those offline maps, all you're going to have to do is go offline, right? So there's nothing that you have to necessarily initiate when you're starting to explore around that you want to be able to use those offline maps. It's just if you lose cell service, you're still going to have all of that information. So nothing that you have to toggle on or off as long as you have those maps downloaded. So awesome. Looks like we're looking good. Hey, Chad? I like it. Cool. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We truly appreciate you joining us. Um, Chad, we're still looking good. No last questions sneaking in. Perfect. Comment. Okay. Well, let's see. What can we answer here? Where are we at? Q&A. Let's find out. We still got time, right? Will we be doing more of these tutorials? We will, Daniel. One of the cool things about the Masterclass program is we try to do a monthly 101. The 101s change up a little bit depending on if there's new features or if there's specific focuses for seasonal things, whatever it might be. But we are also trying to work in more of the topical and partner classes. So whether you've been able to join us for some of our previous classes with Hardy and Grays or potentially with Yokota, things like that. We're hoping to be able to bring some more of those, whether it's with some of our partner fly shops or whatever it might be. So definitely stay tuned for the Masterclass program that's going to keep chugging along here as we get into prime fishing season. Dylan, when will the YouTube be up for this presentation? I am going to very likely be able to get it uploaded first thing tomorrow morning. So it should be uploaded mid-morning by tomorrow. You will get an follow-up email 24 hours from the start of this class with that link. That's just an automatic email from Zoom. But if you are looking to access class to kind of jump into a section again or run through something or watch the whole thing again, whatever it might be, I should be able to get that uploaded by mid-morning tomorrow. Cool. Does the satellite icon track your movement on the offline maps as you move? It's not going to necessarily track your, I'm sure Chad's answering this one, it's not going to track your movement like Tracker on some of the other Onyx apps, but if you do go to access your location while you're offline, you still will be able to find that location, but it won't necessarily track your location. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, really appreciate you all joining us for May's Masterclass. Hopefully you're getting out there. I don't know about you, but May is one of my favorite months to fish, whether you're out west trying to hit the banks with streamers during high water or finding those smaller streams, or out east where we've got hatches galore and fishing's pretty prime in all the spring streams. Wherever you are, May's a darn good month. So get out there, use the app, save some markers, whatever it might be. We hope you put trout routes to use over the next few months, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chad. See y'all.